Hello and welcome back to the BiermanBlog. Today we have another thing we're going to try out and go ahead and see what happens here. He said, she said. Today we are going to talk about our top 10 80s movies. These are our opinions. These are our choices for what movies we think were like the biggest parts of our lives growing up in the 80s, or like our most hyped up events, or just movies that we just, I don't know, feel like you just feel something about these movies. There's tons of great 80s movies. So
yes, and it was really hard to narrow down my list.
Yes, it's very hard to narrow down this list. And mine, I don't know what her criteria for her list was, but my criteria is movies that I was like super hyped to see, movies that still stick in my mind, and movies that I could watch again, and movies that basically set or started something or began a trend or whatever, or just technologically awesome back in the 80s, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know who wants to start first, or if you want to tell how your criteria for your movies are.
So I don't have a specific criteria. I will tell you for myself, I'm going to tell you what about each movie why it made it to my list, so it may be a different reason. But I did try to leave guilty pleasure movies off. Dance Till Dawn, Camp Cucamonga, like 80s, like made for TV movies, things like that. I kind of tried to leave off my list because there's definitely a time or place for that. But I think for myself, I tend to always watch 80s movies. Not that I hate movies today, but I think that nothing can beat 80s movies because they were awesome.
Yes, 80s movies were awesome, and we'll probably do another video about like our top 10 guilty pleasures. So I tried to keep guilty pleasures off my list as well. I tried to keep them to movies that I was super hyped for and I love. So,
all right. So in making my list, like I said, I really, really, really had a hard time, ranking movies. But my top 10 starts at number 10 with the Monster Squad. And I'll tell you, a lot of people compare that to the Goonies, and I definitely see the point in that, but I'm going to tell you what. Obviously, I'm a girl who likes guys, and there were cute guys in the movies. I've always been a Ryan Lambert fan since Kids Incorporated days, so that was a big draw, but I liked the story. I liked I don't know, there's certain, for me, I look for certain parts in a movie. It doesn't have to be the whole movie that just means something to me. There could be a soundtrack that just elevates the movie and makes it awesome, and kind of punches, you in the gut. But seeing little Phoebe hold Frankenstein's monster's hand, I'm sorry, yeah, that was it for me.
This is a good pick. This is a good movie. You got all the classic Universal monsters. You got Van Helsing. You've got a group of kids who basically believe in monsters, and then they come to life. And it's like, if you're a kid who believed in them and then you find out they're real, I mean, that would blow your mind, right?
Yes.
And then you get to fight them and send them all back into the other dimension.
And save the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. I didn't put it as one of my top 10 because that's a movie I would watch again and again, but that's sort of like also a guilty pleasure movie for me.
Fair enough. All right, well, Mark, what's your top 10? Or what's your number 10? Sorry.
My number 10 movie is I was going to say it's not well, I guess it is, Tim Burton's movie, Batman, from 1989. This movie, I was so hyped for. I don't know what it was. I just remember back in that time period, the old Adam West Batman was like on Nick at Night or something, and it was like huge Batman hype around this time as well. I don't know if it was just because people knew the movie was going to be coming out, or if it was just the nostalgia thing from, I swear it was Nick at Night. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't FX, because FX came like way later.
It was Nick at Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody was like, oh man, Batman, this is going to be awesome. And we went to the drive-in, and a lot of these movies are probably like drive-in movies too on my list, which is something my family used to do. We used to go to the drive-in. I missed the drive-in. I wish the drive-in was still around. But we went to the drive-in, and then it was packed. Every car spot was pretty much full, and there was a guy who was already, like, parked next to us, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't wait." Bam, whiff, pow. And I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And then you watch the movie, and it's totally not what you're expecting, or at least for me. I'm like, wow, this isn't like the campy Adam West, but it's still awesome. And yeah, it's just, you're seeing Batman on the screen in real life, and it's just the Batmobile, the Batwing, Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Good stuff. And the soundtrack, it's got a good soundtrack too. The score and Prince. So there you go.
All right. Well, I'm can't say that I was much into any type of superhero movies in the 80s. Although, now I really do enjoy the Avengers movies. So that would have been... I don't think I've ever even seen that movie.
You never saw that 1989 Batman?
No, I've never seen any of the Batmans. So...
All you need is a 1989 one. This part, Batman Returns is okay, but then it's like...
Is Michael Keaton the original Batman? Or was it Val Kilmer?
Michael Keaton was in the 89, and then Batman Returns. And then Val Kilmer was in Batman Forever, I think it was. And then it was, George Clooney.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well... Maybe I will watch. You know what? When we were dating, you watched a lot of movies you didn't want to see. So, and I also made you watch Dream of a Dream the other night. So.
Yeah, you did make me watch that.
Well, I didn't make you, but you were in the room when I.
But I had the VHS tape of Batman. We watched quite a bit when I was a kid. I'm surprised I don't have the DVD. So we'll have to get one.
All right, add that to my possible birthday list for you. All right, so number 9 is Dirty Dancing.
Oh, come on.
No, it's Dirty Dancing. So, for me, as probably the good girl of my family, I think I kind of identified with Baby a little bit, just wanting to be a little dangerous and, go with a guy that, my parents wouldn't have liked. And I'm sorry, I come from a very sarcastic, a very movie quotes family. Like, we can literally just play off each other and do a whole movie scene together, and this was one of them. And it's kind of rare that you find movies that are more geared towards females, but you have your brothers watching it with you, so that was kind of interesting. Not that they binged it, but the classic lines are there. Nobody puts Baby in a corner. But I think for me, it was nice to see her go from this, like, girl who thought she would be complete opposite of what she is at the end of the movie. And I'm sorry, that lift, that last final dance, yeah.
Yeah. Not the movie. I've never seen it completely all the way through. I just know, like, the baby in the corner and then, like, the final dance, and apparently that's all you really need to know. So there you go. I mean, I have no idea what the plot is or anything like that. But that's also another movie that's not even on my list. So we're doing good so far with it. He said, she said.
Yes.
But I guess if it's more of a girly movie as well, I obviously didn't care for it or ever really want to see that one. So
yeah. And fun fact, the Goldbergs, which you also do not like.
I do not like that show.
You also like, but they did an episode very similar where they were comparing. Stop. Girls just want to have, or no, sorry, now you're messing me up. Dirty Dancing and Footloose, which is another great 80s movie, but it's not on my list. However, but they did a great crossover, like, those two together, and I loved it. So, and that's a fun thing if you don't want to, if you've never watched the Goldbergs. I'm sorry, I like it. Maybe not so much now. When it first started, it was really, great. But anyway, we could argue about that on a whole separate video.
Oh, we could.
So why don't you just tell me what your number 9 is?
All right. My number 9 movie from the 80s. This one is one I don't think has actually ever been, like, replicated what they did ever since this movie came out. I mean, they tried, I think, but I don't think it has been replicated as well as they did this one. This one was like the perfection. 1988, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Are you kidding me?
No, that movie is a technological, just, cartoons and humans living together. You got all your classic, well, not all, I don't think Popeye was in it, I can't remember. But you have all these classic cartoon characters making cameo appearances in it. You've got Christopher Lloyd just hamming it up. You just watch the making of video of this. I watched the making of video of it because I was like, yeah, this is on my top 10. All the little things they had to do to make it look like those cartoons were actually really there and interacting, and it's just, and I don't, like I said, I don't think any other movie has done that. They tried Cool World. No. What other movie did, I had another example of like another.
Space Jam.
Oh, Space Jam. No. And they got a sequel I saw. Why? They actually made it. I heard there was a rumor, but they actually made it. But anyway, Roger Rabbit, that's another movie I had on VHS we played all the time. It's got one of like a very sad scene as well. You're gonna laugh at me about it, but when Judge Doom is showing off the dip and he grabs that poor squeaky shoe and dips it in the dip in that poor shoe's eyes as it's getting dipped and dying, that's just like, ouch, that sort of hurts. Yeah, that's a freaking shoe. But it's like you can see the pain and the fear on that poor shoe's face. Ugh. Great movie though, awesome movie. And I don't care what you say, it's one of the best 80s movies.
Okay. If that's what you love, that's great. So what, you want to hear my number 8?
Oh, please tell me.
I think number 8's on your list, actually. E.T.
No!
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 Are you kidding me?
E.T. It's a movie that's classic, obviously. People, it's, what is it? It's a genre, not genre, what is it? It's like a tentpole movie of the 80s. I can't think of the word right now. But yeah, it's like, you think E.T., you think the 80s. But you watch it again, it's sort of boring. Maybe it's just because you know what's going to happen. It doesn't have that awe factor anymore of E.T., but it's still a good movie.
Okay.
Not in my top 10.
Yeah, so it was in my top 10. I would still watch it today and feel the same way. I liked how Elliot just treated E.T. as like a brand new friend. Like, it didn't matter that he was alien. He's showing him his Boba. Here's Boba Fett. And here's, I can't remember who it is. And look, they can have wars. And, I really enjoyed that. And I will tell you, we saw this in the theater, and I think that's one thing, because we didn't go to very many movies in the theater. But we went as a family. And my dad actually cried at E.T. And, my dad is not, I wouldn't say he wasn't an emotional man. He was very affectionate, but I've never seen him cry. And, when he was watching E.T. and E.T. is dying and Mike finds him in the forest, my dad started crying. And I can't say I didn't either, but, yeah. So that's my number 8.
It's a good pick. I'm not gonna, it's not a movie I would want to watch all the way through again. It's a classic 80s movie when you think of 80s, but for me, unfortunately, it didn't make my top 10.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell me what made your number 8?
My number 8 pick from 1987, RoboCop. Another movie. I was a boy in the 80s.
And I was a girl in the 80s, so yes, we're gonna have a different list.
I was into robots and aliens, but I didn't put E.T. on it. Robots and futuristic stuff. And you see a trailer for a robot cop, and you're like, I want to see that. That's awesome. There's a robot cop, and he's got the visor and everything. This is another movie we saw in the drive-in. We didn't see Roger Rabbit in the drive-in. We saw that at Billy Joe's Picture Show. I wish that was still around. But we saw this one at the drive-in as well, and, you know, I was a kid. I wasn't really into watching, like, movie trailers and stuff like that. You know, they'd only come on basically during primetime TV when you weren't supposed to be awake anyway when you were a kid. And so I had no idea that this movie was going to be, like, violent as it was. So, but I also, my parents took me, like, every Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. So it, like, didn't faze me at all. So I was, like, sort of like, whoa, you know, this is sort of violent, but I sort of like it. And you got the Ed 209. I like that. It's like a Macross type thing. When it's like the, I can't remember what form that is. When it's the half plane, half robot thing. That's what it sort of reminded me of. It's got the big guns and it's got, you know, the voice and everything. But just the robot cop and just having him plod around and, you know, drop it. And you are coming with me. And your move, creep. And of course, the line I use a lot is, you know, stay out of trouble. So, RoboCop for me is my number 8 movie. And the gun. He has the gun that goes in his thigh. Come on, that's awesome.
Okay.
But that's number 8.
Well, I'll tell you my number 7. Before I tell you my number 7, I have a feeling that I'm going to be considered a very classic 80s on my list. It's going to be stuff that's really well known, and a lot of people probably remember this movie when they, you know, think about the 80s.
Well, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess I wouldn't think about RoboCop. I wouldn't think about Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Well, that's just, these are, you know, movies that I loved when I was in the 80s. And, you know, like I said, we had the VHS of Batman and Roger Rabbit. We were just going through like crazy. RoboCop, just because I love robots. But, yeah, it's probably also like the family thing, because, you know, a few of these movies were going to the drive-in to see them. And that was a big thing for our family, you know.
Right.
Load up the car, let's go. So, yeah.
All right. So my number 7 is starring a girl who's very close to a lot of people's hearts. You think of who I'm talking about? Who was the 80s darling?
Who was the 80s darling? There's like a million.
Okay, no. Pretty in Pink. Molly Ringwald.
Oh, Molly Ringwald. Okay.
Yes, and John Cryer, and so let me just tell you a couple things that I really liked about this movie. Is, you know, for those of you who are in the Des Moines area, I grew up on the East Side, which wasn't definitely not a rich neighborhood. We have a reputation of being troublemakers and all that good stuff. So, you know, Andy in the movie, she's from the wrong side of the tracks, and she falls in love with somebody who, you know, is very rich and with a popular crowd. And I liked, you know, first and foremost, I liked how she was her own person. Like, she didn't give a crap about what other people thought about her. You know, she'd wear what she wants. She was proud of what she wore, and but then, you know, she becomes vulnerable, you know. She goes out with Blaine. Blaine wants to take her home, and I just don't want you to see where I live. But she was also best friends with a boy, and I had a lot of boy friends growing up. I like boys better than I like girls because they were less trauma. And I had a couple really good guy friends, so I mean, you know, that was another thing I could relate to. And no, none of them were in love with me, you know. At least I don't think. But I love the movie, and this is kind of where the score factor comes in as far as the soundtrack. So, you know, there was Ducky's Dance to Otis Redding, which I loved. John Cryer, hate him or love him. I mean, that was just an awesome dance. But, you know, it really tells me at the end, and they're at the prom, and he says, you know, I love you, always, Blaine. And he leaves, and Andy's doubting that, And Ducky sacrifices his love for Andy and say, you know what? He came here alone. Maybe he's okay. And there's that moment, the end of the movie. They're meeting in front of the car. The headlights are backlit, and they're singing "If You Leave." I can't remember. Is that OMD?
Or yeah, OMD.
Yeah, OMD.
Or
And that's playing in the background, and that's the end of the movie. And I just love that end. So,
I mean, it's a essential teenage movie.
Yes.
From the 80s. Not the type of movie I was into back then, but yeah, it's essential. Good pick.
Yeah.
We're on 7, right? All right. So number 7. Like I said, I'm a robot guy back in the 80s. This one I did not see in theaters. I think this one was like actually recorded off of TV, like when HBO was the thing to record off of, because they played the movies and you got a VCR and it's like awesome to get. But I just remember the first time seeing this movie was at home. Terminator, the original Terminator. This one, I mean, say what you will about how the franchise went on after 2, which 1 and 2, that's all you really need for Terminator. They screwed everything up after that. But 1 is just that opening scene in the future. When I was a kid, I wanted more of that. And you did get like some flashbacks every now and then to the future. I wanted more of that, humans fighting the endoskeletons and the flying HKs and all that stuff. I wanted that. And then they gave it to us with some of the newer movies, and it's like, oh no, not like that. So, yeah, I wanted it more like back then. But it was awesome. Time travel, you got a guy comes back, you don't know if he's good or bad. Well, obviously the Terminator's bad, but you don't know about the other guy until he saves her. At least I think that's how I haven't actually seen the movie in a while. I can't remember if they tried to make Reese out you didn't know if he was good or bad until he saves her at Tech Noir. But yeah, it's just don't know who Sarah Connor is, so I'm just going to rip out the phone book and just start killing Sarah Connors. And it's relentless. He can't be bargained with, can't be reasoned with, and just Arnold Schwarzenegger just being the wooden guy that he's been in a few other movies, but he made it work. And the other scene that just pops into my head that makes me really like this movie is the end, when they blow up the tanker truck and you're like, it's over. And when you're a kid, you're like, oh, they blew him up. And then the endoskeleton just comes out of the fire. And as a kid, you're like, yeah! And they fight the endoskeleton in the end. And as a kid, I'm just like, this is so awesome. They blow him up, and then she smashes it at the end. And yeah, it's just little kid testosterone type thing. So there you go.
Well, and I think, especially in the early 80s, the villain coming back to life and things like that, it wasn't as prominent, as we started going through different generations. That's just my opinion. So
yeah, you might be right. I don't think after they kill Dracula in like old movies, he would jump up one more time or anything like that.
Right. It wasn't until we got to Nightmare on Elm Street,
well,
and
I
know those are 80s movies, but yeah. All right, so let's get to number 6. And I'm actually surprised that I rated this as number 6 and not something higher. But Back to the Future.
That's low.
Well, no. 6.
Yeah,
6 is
low on your list.
It's low on my list. And not for any particular reason, but yeah. So I loved everything about Back to the Future. I loved him going back in time, seeing what his parents were like, realizing that, oh crap, I'm going to not exist anymore because I've intervened and, ruined my parents getting together. Not to mention the soundtrack, and not even just like the vocal soundtrack, but the
score.
The score. I mean, I even have it saved in my phone to play sometimes, just because I like it. And God, I love the movie. I do.
You love it, but it's 6.
I love it, but it's 6. I know. I love so many movies.
You better have some good movies up higher on your list.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, you will not think they're good movies because no. But yes, I love Back to the Future. Back to the Future 2 was, I don't think, did that come out actually in the 80s?
Yes, Back to the Future 2 came out in 89.
Yeah, so I did love Back to the Future 2, 3, piss on 3.
3.
No. I don't hate 3, but yeah, if I was rating them in order, I'd go 1, 2, 3.
3 gets hate on too much. 3 is good. But I also like Westerns.
Okay. So that now I'm curious, what is your number 6?
My number 6 is a movie where I was way too young to have seen this in theaters. Way too young. But I still remember being still young enough to go to movies. I swear this got re-released in the 80s because for some reason I'm thinking I went to see this at the River Hills Riviera Theater back in the day. The Empire Strikes Back. That is my number 6. It's the best Star Wars movie out of all of them anyway, right? So obviously that means there's no more Star Wars on my list.
And I don't even have Star Wars on my list, but I like it.
I don't know. I just, for some reason, I'm feeling that I saw this at the River Hills Riviera when I was 5 or something. Like when Jedi was coming out and they re-released it or something. I don't know. Maybe they did.
Maybe they did just to catch you up, or.
But I just remember the whole Darth Vader saying he was Luke's father thing when I'm a kid, and I was like, no, that's not right. That's not true. That's impossible. And then they still leave it open to me as a kid. Now you're obviously, yes, it's true, and but as a kid I'm like, they're looking out the window at the end and the movie's over, and I was like, so was he the father or not? But now obviously I know because I'm older and I saw it again.
Right.
But it's just all the things that happen in Empire. There's so much going on in Empire. You got the AT-AT walkers, the Hoth scene, going to see Yoda's first appearance, Sky City, Lando Calrissian. Cloud City, sorry. Cloud City.
See, even I know that.
I don't know why I said Sky City, to be honest with you. I know it's Cloud City.
Okay.
But you got the I love you, I know. You got him getting frozen in carbonite.
Yeah.
You got Boba Fett.
And just that epic wail that comes out of Chewie when Han gets frozen.
Chewie's wail when he gets frozen has way more, what is it?
Emotion
behind it
yes.
than when he actually gets killed in the other movie.
Yeah.
Han gets killed and Chewie doesn't have that much emotion as he did when he got frozen.
Yeah.
That's how bad those Disney sequels are.
And just even Princess Leia is holding on to Chewie at the same time too. It's just the look on her face really sells it. So I would say, I don't know that Empire is my favorite, but I do like it. I do like 1, 2, and 3. I kind of like Return of the Jedi.
What do you mean?
Best.
4, 5, 6.
Oh, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay. I guess I'm not that much of a fan. But I will say, at least for every movie, even these, all these bad Rise of Sky. I didn't like Rise of Skywalker, but you had that dang score.
The score.
The score, and then you have Lucasfilms that comes on the screen, and it's going to sound weird, but it's like, I'm home. Because it was so much a part of the 80s. We had you go to was a Hardee's. Was it Hardee's? You got glasses.
Burger King had the glasses.
Yeah, you get glasses when you go to Burger King with the imprint of the movie on it.
I remember drinking out of them all the time at my grandfather's house. Mm-hmm. He had all 3, Star Wars, Jedi, and Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Mm-hmm. All 3 of those glasses in a set. And
Yeah, as much as it was commercialized, it deserved it.
And it's like, this is the best of the original trilogy. The bad guys win. And yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in the next one? It's just good.
You're right.
And that's only my number 6.
That's your number 6. Okay. So that gives us number 5. Okay. Now you're going to take... You picked this over as number 5?
Everything you've picked over Back to the Future is I'm going to be very sus about.
Okay. Girls just want to have fun.
Oh my... Are you serious?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Give me your reasoning behind Girls Just Want to Have Fun being higher than Back to the Future.
Probably because I couldn't decide between the two. So, I did like agonize over this list. Okay, but Girls Just Want to Have Fun. One is there's no stupid sequel to it. Okay, the original stands on, so nobody's remade it.
So you're saying Back to the Future 2 is a stupid sequel?
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not saying that. Don't put words in my mouth.
You said it didn't have a stupid sequel.
No. Yeah, but it doesn't mean I thought Back to the Future was stupid.
Right.
The sequel was stupid. But who did not? Okay, so some girls like Flashdance in the 80s. I like Girls Just Want to Have Fun because I would dance around the living room to the songs. I loved Helen Hunt in it, like how just crazy out there she was. I
would say it's a more fun movie than Flashdance, yes.
Yes. But I just remember vividly dancing around in my basement. We had a finished basement, and we'd pop the VCR tape in, and my friends would come over, and we'd dance around for it. So I even have the soundtrack. I don't know that it was ever officially like released on CD, but I found like compilations on YouTube, and I have it in my playlist. So for me, that was my movie, and just the end when she wins. First off, I don't think she should have won based on the acrobats. Based on the acrobats, okay? Because the other girl, I liked one of the some of their moves better. But the end when she wins and Helen Hunt comes out on the horse or on the, I don't know what you call the Greek style carriage. You have a horse or like a Roman type. So you have just this little cart that the person's in. And
a chariot?
A chariot, yes.
Oh,
okay.
So
she comes out on the chariot. And so she had been so disappointed she didn't get into the contest because it was fixed for her. And then she takes over Ricky's spot and comes out. And Jeff just looks super confused, like, what the hell's going on? And then Helen Hunt is like, and Sarah Jessica Parker's like, woo! And then there's that moment, we did it! And again, some of my are based on emotion. My picks. Okay? Now, I squeal like a little girl. I like that N. G-I-R-L-S. Ooh! G-I-R-L-S. So, that's my number 6. Or number 5.
Number 5.
That's number 5.
Yeah, we're like halfway done almost. Awesome. All right. That's your number 5. My number 5 is another one. Like I said, I pick them because they're part of my childhood. You're on emotion. I'm more on this movie. I watched a lot as I liked it as a kid. I still like them today. I remember watching this one all the time up in my grandfather's place up in Minnesota, the Sherwood Forest place. Mm-hmm. They had VCR rentals back then, or VHS rentals back then, and some of their movies were just like recordings of off of HBO as well. But so this movie I did not see in theaters. I remember seeing this one in the little cabin, like over and over and over again, and I just watched it because there was nothing else to do. Like basically when we went up there and
watched Beethoven
many times because that was the only thing there. Yeah. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That
I can agree to that.
It's a time travel movie. It's two dudes who are just like yo, whoa, awesome. And they got to go back in time to get a history report done.
And they decide to collect figures.
And they
kidnap people.
They kidnap people from the past and bring them to San Dimas in 1989. Because that's when the movie came out.
Yeah.
And, it's just, the soundtrack of that is awesome as well. Napoleon is, like, hilarious. I just think having the little Napoleon guy is something hilarious. Socrates is funny.
Socrates Johnson.
Socrates.
Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid. Lincoln.
Siggy. Sigmund Freud.
Yeah, and
Like picking up the girls. You can call me Siggy.
You can call me Siggy.
And then the girls are laughing, and he's like, "Wow, they're
And
some form of hysterics."
I'm weird. I always have liked Bill better than Ted. I've liked Alex Winter better than Keanu. I think Alex Winter should have got more than what he's gotten. If you haven't seen his other movie called Freaked, I believe. I don't think you can actually get it on home video, but if you can find a way to get that, that's a hilarious movie. He also had like a comedy series on MTV. I wrote down, but now I can't remember what it was called. But check that out as well. I think it was Idiot Box or something like that. I can't remember.
He was also in Lost Boys.
He was also in Lost Boys. He directed some stuff. Unfortunately, he directed the Smosh movie. You can't direct everything that's good. He's done a lot of documentaries lately. And yeah, I just thought he's the one that carries the movies.
Yeah, and
especially the last one. He carried 3. Face the Music, he carried that one.
Yeah, he did. He really did. Keanu was there to get a paycheck, and Alex Winters was there to sell it. So, and he did a great job.
So yeah, there you go. My number 5. Even had a cartoon series about it. So there you go. I think they even had an excellent cereal.
I think they did too. Yeah. All right, so number 4. So my number 4 is 16 Candles.
Oh, you had Pretty in Pink. You might as well have 16 Candles.
Yep, exactly. And you can kind of tell my movie type. So not only, it's all I have are brothers, so I can't relate to my sister getting married on my 16th or the day after my 16th birthday, but I can definitely relate to the expectations. Like, it's my 16th birthday. It's going to be some grand event, which mine was not, and neither was Sam's. But again, I was a girl, and she's crushing on this guy, and she wants to put herself out there. And I'm sorry, who else doesn't love Long Duck Dawn? I mean, who doesn't?
What's happening, hot stuff?
His name is Long Duck Dawn.
But again, just like Pretty in Pink, Molly Ringwald as Sam Baker gets her moment where she walks out of the church and the cars start to, drive away. And there's Jake Bryan waiting for her. And they have a very awkward conversation, but they've got this music behind it, and he takes her to his house, and they're sitting on top of the glass table, and he got her a birthday cake. And then he says, "Happy birthday," and make a wish, and she's like, "Well, it already came true." And they lean across the cake and they kiss. And it's got that little just score behind it too, which is really sells it. And I did like. There was a great scene with her father, and one of my favorite lines that he says is, "That's why they call it a crush. And if it didn't hurt, they wouldn't call it a crush." So that was a very tender moment. I was a daddy's girl, so even on the days when my dad wasn't in the best, the best state of mind, I was always a daddy's girl. So
Yeah, I can't knock that pick. It's another essential teen movie from the 80s. Probably not one I'd watch all the way through, but I really can't, like you said, quote a lot of stuff right here in the video, but it's got all those quotes that are just hilarious.
yeah.
And yeah, it's a funny movie. Yeah.
Fred she's got in her movies.
I better get the magnifying glass.
See, there you go. All right, so tell me what your number 4 is.
My number 4 is also from 1989. This one I know for sure I saw at the River Hills Riviera Theater. And it's another time travel movie. This is Back to the Future Part 2.
Okay.
Back to the Future Part 2. Again, 80s kid. I'm into futuristic stuff, robots, all this stuff. You see that Back to the Future 2, they're finally going to the future. I gotta see this movie, right? Mm-hmm. I gotta see what they think the future's gonna be like. And, you know, when you're a kid, you're dumb. You're like, oh, wow, this is gonna be what's gonna be.
Yep.
And now it's in 2020 and...
2021.
No, 2021 now.
And we still don't have...
We don't have hoverboards. We had those stupid things they called hoverboards. Just because someone... It was a genius marketer and said, it's 2015, I gotta do something. Mm-hmm. And we'll call these hoverboards and we'll sell them tons of them. But flying cars, I mean, that little vision of the future, they got some stuff right. We have flat screen TVs now. We could probably watch multiple channels on it if we really wanted to. I don't know.
We can't hydrate a pizza.
No one can hydrate a pizza like Marty's mom, though.
Marty's mom, yeah, that's right.
You got
doors you open with your...
You got car horns that can honk by themselves. Yeah, but you got automatic doors. You got thumbprint IDs.
Thumbprints to pay. For, you know, the closest we have, what is Apple Pay?
Apple Pay and Samsung Pay. You know, you had 80s nostalgia. Not as hyped up as it was back then with Cafe 80s and stuff, but 80s nostalgia still going strong.
Now, do you have a favorite scene from the movie?
Well, I'm just saying, then they go, Biff steals the thing, and then you go back to the first movie, and you're reliving the first movie through the eyes. I mean, you're seeing stuff happening that happened, but you're watching a brand new movie and watching these people, like, behind the scenes, like, running around while the original movie's playing, like, the original movie's happening. That is... I thought that was, wow, this is awesome. I mean, he's up there playing Johnny Be Good, and he's talking to Doc on the walkie-talkie going, no, not me, the other me. And we went and watched that again on Back to the Future Day.
Yep.
October 22nd, 2015. And I remember, like, you know, Doc gets hit by the lightning, disappears, and the Western Union guy comes, and they read the letter, and for some reason, after he goes, oh, there's only one guy who can help me, because the guy's like, can I help you with anything? He's like, there's only one man who can help me now. And then they go to Doc, right when he's about to slide down the thing. And you let out that little, yay! And that made me choke up and almost cry.
Yeah.
Because that's it. This isn't the future anymore.
Right.
And
yeah, I love that.
So it's making me tear up right now for some reason. But I would say my favorite part is just like I said, back then I was a big future kid, so my favorite part's the future, pretty much.
Yeah.
The whole future thing, and that's about it. I mean, it's just an awesome all-around movie. You got
great actors in it, which is really sad. And they really are great in their characters. They really are. I kind of love when Doc talks about him going through the rejuvenation clinic, and he pulls off his mask, and he looks exactly the same, and it was just...
No.
But I think, and two, the part where Marty starts to kind of leave the alley, and he's like, the future. And you just felt like...
Yeah.
Like, very excited, like, very ecstatic, like, what is out there? What is out behind this normal-looking alley?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good pick.
Yep, that's only my number 4.
Okay. All right, here's my number 3. Weird Science.
Okay, this is all right. I would say this is more of a guilty pleasure movie for me, but go ahead.
No, this is. I love this movie. Like, yeah, I love it. It's kind of like, I wouldn't say futuristic, but like an underdog movie. You've got Wyatt and Gary, who are the two geekiest people in the school, and they end up, making this woman from a computer, and everything. Now, Anthony Michael Hall, okay, in the backseat of the car when he's drunk.
Yes.
Classic. Okay, I love that. Very fun. I love the end where she, Lisa's like, I'm happy for you, but yeah, I'm gonna miss you. And she's tearing up and she blows a kiss and she disappears. And it kind of funny story is I had somebody in one of my training classes. His name was Chet, and when he introduced himself to the class, he goes, I'm Chet, but I'm not like Chet from Weird Science. And I'm like, oh my god, this is my person. This is who I can identify with in my class. Because I had another girl in that same class, and she's like, what's a Weird Science? And I just about fell over. So I made a class assignment that she had to go watch Weird Science. And I had Robert Downey Jr. And I just love the way his comedic performance in this, especially when they're trying to beg the girls to come back and they're talking and you could see them, the girls can't see him, but he's like, it just is, okay, I'll have to show you that part if you can't remember it. But anyway, yes, I love Weird Science. And I like that Gary tried to act like he was, like he thought they were better than what they were, or why it was more realistic, and he's like, whatever.
It's a good movie. I don't have that on my list, but I classified that one as more of a guilty pleasure movie for me. I would watch it if it was on TV, or if I'm, really bored and I don't want to pay super close attention to a movie I'm watching.
Gotcha.
It'd be a background movie for me while I'm doing something else.
Okay.
Good movie. I'm not gonna say anything bad about it.
What's your number 3?
My number 3. Oh, I totally forgot about the whole other thing that was awesome about the original Back to the Future 2, since we're going back to that here real quick. Since I saw it in theaters, and like I said, I didn't really pay attention to any movie news back then. The movie's over, and then there's a preview for 3.
Oh,
and it
yes.
says coming next year or something like that, or this summer or something. And I'm like,
there's never been a trailer within a movie.
And that's as a 11-year-old kid at the time, 10-year-old kid at the time, I'm like, what is this? We have to come back for this movie.
I honestly think that was probably what tipped off starting doing end credits or end scenes after credits, but
yeah, that's the other thing that was just that sticks in my head, and I totally forgot to say about it. Anyway, that ties into my number 3, which is not Back to the Future 3. It's the original Back to the Future as my number 3.
Okay.
And pretty much for everything she said, you've got the DeLorean. That's the iconic car of the 80s just because of that movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not the iconic car, but, when people think of 80s and all these, movies that go back to the 80s, what do you see? What car do you see?
The DeLorean.
People have a DeLorean.
Even Glenn has it in The Wedding Singer.
Yeah. It's just the car. Just because of that movie. If they would have never used a DeLorean, people wouldn't have gave a crap about DeLoreans.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, once you get past the fact that Doc is actually sort of a bad person by stealing plutonium and trying to, and actually accepting a thing to make bombs for Libyans, and the thing that I didn't get when you're a kid, but you realize it now when you're older. No, I'm not going to say that stupid thing that someone tried to make a meme about earlier this year. I knew about that the first time I saw the movie. The Twin Pines Mall, Lone Pine Mall thing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I was like, really?
Who didn't?
Who didn't see that?
Yeah.
Who didn't realize that? But anyway, no, I'm talking about Doc was like, he spent all this time and effort and stuff on the DeLorean, but you didn't realize that he used to be part of like a rich family, and he burned down the house that Marty goes back to. He burns all that stuff down to get the insurance money so he can keep doing his work on the DeLorean and on the time machine. You don't really realize that unless you start looking and, people mention it. And you're like, oh my gosh, he did. He did all that. Again, he's a bad person to get the insurance money so he can keep working on the DeLorean. But going back in time, and yeah, that whole, oh crap, I just made my parents not meet each other the way they've always been saying they met each other. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the thing of the mother's like, oh, I would never have done this, this, and this when she's in 85. But then he goes back in time and she's like drinking and smoking and,
very flirty.
Very flirty, yeah.
Being very forward with
yes.
the boy. I'd never sit in a parked car with a boy.
And then, yeah, just, in the back of your head, there's no way they could know exactly when that lightning bolt hit the top clock tower. But you suspend all that disbelief because you want that car to hit 88 and that hook to hit, the lightning to hit, and it all does.
And send it back, yep.
And then you've got the end where Doc comes back and the car flies, and you're like, wow!
Yep.
So, yeah, so it's the classic. Without that one, you wouldn't have had 2 or 3.
Right.
So, there you go.
Okay. All right, what number are we on?
We are on number 2.
Right, number 2. Where's my number 2? Number 2. All right. Well, for my number 2, we're going to find out how long the holiday road is. We're going on vacation. The original National Lampoon's Vacation, to be exact, with Anthony Michael Hall, Dana Barron, Chevy Chase, and Beverly D'Angelo, the original Griswolds. And so I spent a lot of, like every summer we went to Arkansas with my grandparents, and it was a 12-hour drive. And my brother was a pain in the butt. I was with my younger brother because my older brother was just too cool for it. And so at that time, my brother was a bratty little kid, and I can relate to a lot of it. No, my grandparents never sang Mockingbird or anything like that. My grandpa always listened to actually religious music, or religious, I think Jimmy Swaggart. So he listened to sermons in the car. So I couldn't relate completely to that, but yeah, just being on vacation, things like that. When things go wrong, I feel like some of the vacations we've been on, it's like almost like that, where we've had those moments.
Without the driving, yes.
Except when we drove to Las Vegas, when Kylie was a baby.
Oh, yeah, we did do that.
Yeah, she was just a couple months old when we drove from Des Moines to Las Vegas. But, Aunt Edna dying, Clark just wanting, I wanted to have this for my family, and I don't want to get stuck in a funeral. Just drop her off. His infatuation with what is her name, Christy Wrigley, that goes on in every movie. I mean, even like they bring her back in Vegas Vacation, and it's just kind of funny.
Well, she was in the other ones.
She wasn't in 2. 2 is European Vacation, which I like that one too. I like that one too. But number 1 is just...
You pretty much like all the vacations.
I do, except for the
remake that they had
with Ed Helms.
With Ed Helms.
Love Ed Helms. Love him. The movie was just ridiculously awful. So, and that's, I think, if you compare the two, you come from the 80s where you could get away with just regular talk, regular dialogue, where movies now you just have a lot of dick and ball jokes and just masturbation jokes. I mean, it goes from being a family friendly movie in the 80s to a very raunchy movie that
I don't think Vacation was really super family friendly. But...
No, but well, hey, you got to see Christy Brinkley. That was really, she's hot. But, yeah, that's my number two.
Number 2.
Number 2.
Not a bad choice. Not in my top 10. Still a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, folks. Park's closed. Moose Harbor should have
yeah,
showed you.
It would never happen like that anymore with the internet. Obviously, you would know when the park's closed, if you wouldn't go. Well, number one, a park wouldn't be completely closed unless there's some kind of pandemic going on.
Right. and to get as far as they got, I mean, I guess I don't understand. They never showed like if they just kind of walked right in, but that's what it seemed like, is they walked right in. And I'm like, you know, Disney and Universal, for example, they have gates that they close, so you can't even get in.
Yeah, they wouldn't even let them park.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there's free parking at this Wally World.
Yeah.
But, you know, whatever. One of the favorite things is when he gets the family truck, he goes, if you think you hate it now,
wait till
you drive it.
Yeah.
All right.
So what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a movie. Again, I'm going to go back to the fact that I didn't watch movie trailers. I had no idea what brand new movies were coming out. Mm-hmm. Like Back to the Future, the original one. Again, that's another one I saw at home first on a recorded video off of HBO. My mom recorded it. She goes, I recorded a movie I think you'll like. She was right.
And your mom actually knew how to record a movie.
She knew how to record a movie.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
But this one I just remember playing with the next door neighbor girl, who was also like my babysitter every once in a while, because she was older. I don't know how she tolerated me. But she's like, have you seen Ghostbusters? You'd like it. No, what's that about? She starts telling me about it. It's like, oh, I have to see this. So Ghostbusters is my number 2. And it's just lightning in a bottle. You can't
recreate it.
They can't recreate that. I really hope Afterlife is good. The trailer looks good. I really hope they make a good movie that should have been made, other than we're not talking about 2016. No. But just ghosts, and you know Dan Aykroyd is just, that's like one of his things, is he's fascinated by the occult, well, not the occult, but ghosts and the paranormal. And you know he did a bunch of research and all this stuff, and they wrote this script, and they're supposed to be like future cops or something, and then got evolved into what it is. And it's just that cast, Harold Ramis, I'm going to say Peter Venkman, but Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd, and then Ernie Hudson comes in, Rick Moranis,
Annie Potts,
Sigourney Weaver. Yeah, it's, you got guys with positron colliders on their back. You know, don't mess with the guy with positron collider on his back. And just that first test, you know, it's like, well, we never had a full test of this equipment. I blame myself. So do I. They shoot the poor maid. She's like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. And just the little things, like they're looking for the ghost on their first call, you know, and Egon's just walking down the hallway, and there's a guy trying to get in his room, and he's just like going up and down, and then just pokes the guy. It's just comic gold. It's a good comedic / horror movie, even though it's not really a horror movie. Right. The scariest thing that I thought when I was a kid was that taxi driver after all the ghosts get let out. And the guy jumps in the taxi. Yeah. It's... What else can you say about Ghostbusters, really? You got Ecto-1, that iconic siren.
The lines,
obviously. Yeah.
You know, dogs and cats living together. Master!
Don't look directly in the trap. I looked at the trap, Ray.
Empty your heads. Don't think of anything.
Yeah. Don't cross the streams. Why? It would be bad. Define bad.
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
All right, that's bad. Okay. All right, important safety tip. Thanks, Egon.
You know, stuff like that. The Twinkie thing.
What about the Twinkie?
Yeah.
So-
Walter Peck, just,
This man has no dick.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
so-
quotable. It's iconic. 2 doesn't get as much love as it should. I mean, everyone hates on 2. I think it'd be a better movie with a better soundtrack. You got the soundtrack, obviously. Both, again, the
Ray
original,
Parker.
the iconic theme song, but the whole regular soundtrack and the score of the original Ghostbusters movie, excellent. Birthed the greatest 80s cartoon as well in the real Ghostbusters. What else can you say?
And I would say probably this is one of the very few times that Mark and I have actually agreed on a movie and would actually sit and watch it together. Voluntarily, you know, without just like...
Oh, I've been like going back like almost every year on Halloween because they just keep putting it back out in theaters every Halloween lately. So I gotta go.
Oh yeah, I love it on the big screen.
So that's my number 2.
And that's your number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love that movie. So you know my number 1 is another movie that I love. So. But I will get a lot of crap for it. But anyway.
Okay.
What is your number 1? Do we need to do like the drum roll? Like.
No.
Okay.
We could start singing.
Oh no, what is it?
Good enough.
Oh, Goonies.
Goonies are good enough for me.
Oh no, that's another. I mean, I got a lot of honorable mentions. Maybe you should have did some honorable mentions where you did one, but.
Well, I could definitely go back and do some honorable mentions of what should be in my top 10. Absolutely. But Goonies for me, you know, for me it was unique at the time. I mean, kids, you know, finding a treasure map. Okay, well, yeah, I guess that's not really out there. But the fact is, you know, oh, we're all going to be split up. Let's go on this last adventure together. And, you know, the cast itself was great. It had a great story. It was very adventurous. And actually, I had a friend, and we always played Goonies in her basement. Because she had a full basement that had like a wall between, but you could go between the 2 rooms without going through a door. So we would always pretend that we were going through the caves. And I had to be Steph. Because I was very attractive, and Jessica was just gorgeous. So,
And you had glasses.
I had glasses, yeah. So I was Steph, she was Andy, and unfortunately we had no boys, so, you know, that was all we had. But I really, really had like a super 80s crush on Sean Astin as well. I loved how idyllic he was about everything, you know. Guys, it's a wishing well. Guys, it's our last Goonie adventure. His impassioned speech, you know. The next time we see Sky, it'll be over another town. You know, our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But it's our time. And this is not, I know this is not the full book, but it's our time down here. It's our time down here. And it's all over once we ride up Troy's bucket, and they all kind of look at each other. And I love it. I love it. At the end, it's so sweet because they're all sitting on the rocks and they're watching the pirate ship. And like he says, "Bye, Willie. Thanks." And he saved the house. And see, now I'm getting kind of teary because it's just like, yeah, that moment. And then they break up that super serious moment. You know. So.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I would say it might have been sort of like Indiana Jones for kids.
Yes. Yeah, I can.
There's like a kiddie Indiana Jones. They're going on this adventure, and you're like, you know, you're thinking to yourself, this would be an awesome adventure to go on for real.
Yep.
And then that pirate ship reveal is amazing.
Yes.
When they slide down the waterfall, and then that just, I think they actually built like an entire pirate ship for that movie, didn't they?
They did, and
yeah,
it's really funny in the DVD commentary. Corey Feldman and Sean Astin both say, "Yeah, we actually weren't allowed to go on the set until the day that we were shooting the scene, but we snuck in there and saw it. And aren't we great actors? Because didn't we look really surprised? And so that was really funny. And honestly, I think it's one of those movies too where you look at the deleted scenes and they're just like, I can see why they were deleted, but it would have been so much more funnier if they were in there, you know? Like the octopus.
Or the octopus.
And then, you know, they leave a line in where Steph says to Mouth, or Mouth says to Steph, "Thank you for offering breath to save my life." And she's like, "Oh, thank you for a moment." And then you're like, what? What is he talking about? Because they cut that scene out of the movie. So. But yeah, that's the movie for me. It hits you in all the right spots. It's got, you know, a little bit of romance. It's got those cute boys, you know, that all the girls like to see in those movies. You know, that's half of the movies I watched were because the boys were cute, and I just happen to like the movies too. So I would say that is my number one.
It's a good movie. It didn't make my top 10. It's in my honorable mentions. It's again quintessential 80s movie. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
Goonies.
So what you're saying is I'm a very vanilla.
I would say your
person.
picks were more vanilla. Like nobody's. I mean, it's going to be on a lot of people's lists. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, maybe there's people who really like the movies I've picked so far. I mean, RoboCop and Terminator.
Yep.
You know, Ghostbusters obviously is on probably a lot of people's list, I would think.
I hope so.
You know,
I don't know. Every time we go see it, the movie theater's packed.
it is packed.
So.
Back to the Future, which I just don't like the jokes that some shows put in. Like, oh, it's like that movie Back to the Future. I've never seen Back to the Future. Bull crap! You haven't seen Back to the Future, unless you're like 5 years old.
Or Amish.
I would understand that. But like, you know, when they're talking to teenagers in high school, come on, your parents didn't show you Back to the Future.
Yeah. And if they didn't, you were very bad parents. All right, so Mark, what's your number one?
You want me to do the number one, and then we'll do honorable mentions?
That sounds great.
All right. My number one movie. This is the very first movie in my head that I can remember that I was just extremely hyped up about. I wanted to see this movie. This movie, the second I heard it was coming out, I gotta see this movie. Mom, we gotta go to this movie when it comes out. This movie is the movie I gotta see. And just every day until it came out, you're just like, I'm gonna see this movie. I'm gonna see this movie. Transformers, the movie from 1986. I mean, you're watching the show already. You're getting hyped, you know, boys. Obviously, I'm talking to all the boys out there who grew up in the 80s. You're watching Transformers, and you just hear that they're making a movie. And you're like, oh, they're making a movie. You know, like some people probably get that way now with like their favorite cartoon, I'm sure. But this is like the very first time in my mind anyway. I don't know if it happened before that or not, but just when your favorite cartoons get turned to a movie, you got to go see it. And then you go see it, and there's this larger-than-life planet thing at the beginning, and it just eats another planet, and you're like, whoa, how are they going to beat that thing? And then that soundtrack hits. That remake of the Transformers theme song hits, and you're just like, this is going to be awesome. And it's just rock and roll and heavy metal and a techno score, and then you get that part where they actually start killing some of your favorite characters. And I know they never really shot each other in the cartoon. Sometimes they do blow up in the cartoon, I've noticed, but no one cares because they come back. But there's something about the movie, like when they get on the Autobot ship at the first, she has no idea what I'm talking about. When Megatron rips open that hole in the Autobot ship, and they're like, Decepticons! And they just start blowing all the Autobots away, and the smoke comes out of Prowl's mouth and eyes, and you're just like, oh, he dead. And Ironhide's like, no! And it's like such heroic nonsense, and they don't show it, but you know he just blew his head off. And you're just like, whoa! They just killed like guys who have been in the series forever, and now they're gone. And then you have the fight, that huge fight on Earth, and it took me a while as a kid because I didn't really get it. I mean, the year is 2005 in the movie. So, yeah, it's another future movie.
Yep.
But, you know, I didn't get it until, like, a little bit into the movie. I was like, that's not Spike. Yeah, because Spike's the older guy. This is Daniel, Spike's kid, that's hanging out with Hot Rod. So, you know, that took me a little bit of processing to get through because I was a dumb kid. It was like, wow, this is awesome. But then, you know, they're like, oh, we need, what is it? Blaster needs to tell Optimus Prime that they're getting attacked. And that's the first time he has his cassettes pop out, the Fight Soundwaves cassettes. And you're a kid, you're like, oh my god! And then Prime comes, and then you have the song that's been in a few other movies, and everybody knows the song.
Megatron must be stopped, no matter the cost.
You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah.
You've Got the Touch. I think that was in Boogie Nights, and I think it was in the Glow series. And yeah, just this beginning of that song when Prime shows up and he just beats everybody up and has that final fight with Megatron. And spoiler alert, Optimus Prime dies.
Probably better put a spoiler alert anyway. I mean, if you haven't seen these movies, you know, we don't want to spoil them for you.
But, I mean, that's like the very first time he dies, and now they like kill Prime off in like every iteration of Transformers since. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, you're like, oh, they killed Optimus Prime. What? And then Megatron gets turned into the new guy, and they kill off Starscream, and yeah, it's like, as a kid, I'm like, wow, they're doing all this stuff. And now you're older, and you know, like they did that because they had the new toys, and they didn't want to keep making the old toys. Yeah, that makes sense. But as a kid, you didn't know that. You're just like, holy crap. But just all the songs, and people are probably going to be mad at me, but I think Dare is a better song than The Touch. So, but just that last, you know, scene where Unicron transforms into the huge robot, and they're fighting him, and then Hot Rod becomes Rodimus Prime, and they blow up the big bad guy, and it's till all are one. And yeah, and it's like, I thought it was great. It's my number one movie of all time, and that's why I said people give me crap about it, because people ask me, what's your favorite movie ever? Transformers. You like that Michael Bay? No, the 1986 one. What?
How many copies of it do we have?
I have 1, 2...
We have a VHS copy, right?
Well, I have like 2 VHS copies that are actual VHS copies. I emailed a guy in Canada to record the Laserdisc version off for me on VHS. I have the 25th anniversary DVD, and then I have like another 30th anniversary DVD, I think. I can't. One of them's in a steel case. I know that, and it's a Blu-ray. It's a Blu-ray. So yeah, I got plenty of copies of the movie. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's just my number one movie of all time. It's the first movie I was like super hyped as a kid to watch. It's just got so much stuff going on in it, and I love it. It's cheesy, 80s rock and roll. Yeah.
But, you know, both of us are pretty cheesy. I mean, we love the cheesy 80s stuff, so. Alright.
So, if you want to do honorable mentions, since now, I don't know, should we? Probably should have did honorable mentions before one.
No, that's... So, when I made my list, so I'll just kind of show you. I have a long list. I could have, you know, listed a whole lot more, but you know, there's just so many movies.
There's tons of good
that
movies.
Were great.
What movies do you guys like? I mean, I got a long list as well. I had Weird Science, Spaceballs, Better Off Dead, Adventures of Babysitting.
You had Adventures in Babysitting?
In my honorable mentions and
Really?
stuff I was thinking about. Yeah, Caddyshack, Beetlejuice,
Beetlejuice for sure. That's on mine.
Flight of the Navigator.
BMX Bandits.
Oh, you're going for like the deep cuts.
BMX
BMXa, BMXa.
Yes, the original, the first appearance of Nicole Kidman. Midnight Madness, which was
Another
a
deep
Disney
cut.
deep cut, but that was a Disney movie.
Was it?
It was a Disney movie, yes, and it was Michael J. Fox's first movie, and my brother Nate and I can probably quote the whole movie to you. You know, I want you guys to, you know what? In fact, if you have never heard of Midnight Madness, I want you to look it up.
Yes.
And I want you to tell me what a faggy beefy is. Because I have no idea, and there was a faggy beefy in the movie, so you're gonna have to explain that to me.
Was there? I thought it was just the word.
Harold, how long do you intend to keep driving around without knowing where we're going?
Hey, Barf, have you unscrambled those letters yet?
Fagga beefy? A fagga beefy. Merely a fagga.
Shut up!
Well, it's just a word, but you
Did
tell
I
me.
ruin Did I ruin your joke?
You ruined my joke.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So yeah, but okay. I also had Lost Boys in here.
Lost Boys.
I was one of the suckers for the two Corys. So I had Lost Boys.
You and millions of girls.
Lost Boys, License to Drive, Dream a Little Dream. Now, it's funny as we were watching Dream a Little Dream the other night, Marcus asked me, what the hell has this movie been about? I'm like, oh, I don't, it doesn't make sense, you know.
It does get a little bit confusing. You really got to watch that one.
But it's one that actually, you know, it's kind of weird how you find friends, but when I met Sarah for the first time, like, we went to a video store, and we just, like, pointed all these movies, and we had so many movies in common. And Dream a Little Dream was one of them. So we kind of quote that one to each other when we need to. Loverboy, which is actually a Patrick Dempsey movie, and again, another movie that probably wouldn't be made today because it kind of glamorizes prostitution by ordering pizza.
The pizza boy one,
the pizza with the anchovies. But I like the development of Patrick Dempsey's character because he went from just kind of a punk who really didn't know a lot or care a lot about, you know, women to kind of just complete polar opposite. So yeah, Loverboy. He was also in Can't Buy Me Love.
So you're going for like all the ones he was in.
Just two of them.
But like I said, obviously there's tons of great '80s movies.
Poltergeist.
Oh, that probably could have been my top 10. I mean,
And that's where I had trouble because I really did like Poltergeist. It was one of the first scary movies that I had ever seen. Scared the bejesus out of me. No, the very first Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's a funny story, but I was in Girl Scouts for a hot minute, and I literally mean a hot minute. I think I went to 2 meetings, and the first meeting I went to, they were watching Nightmare on Elm Street, and they were dragging Tina's body, and I'm like, what the hell? Oh my god, it scared the crap out of me. I've got Lucas, which is not Corey, it's just Corey Haim, it's not Corey Feldman, but it has a very young Charlie Sheen. And Legend of Billie Jean.
yeah, I don't know. If you've got this far in the video, thank you very much for watching.
Yes.
If you have your '80s movies you think we totally whiffed on or should have never even had on our list, you know, go ahead and leave a comment. I mean, a couple more of my honorable mentions. Escape from New York, which I didn't put on because I figured that'd be more guilty pleasure. Big Trouble in Little China is obviously a guilty pleasure. I did have Vacation on my list of honorable mentions. Monster Squad. My deep cut of One Crazy Summer. Predator. You know, I had the Blues Brothers. That's technically an 80s movie. I have Vacation. Yeah, it's just all these great movies. Ferris Bueller was on there.
Yeah.
I mean, not on my top 10, but it's an 80s movie that's, you know, people like. So, yeah. You know, let us know what your favorite 80s movies were. And like I said, we'll probably do a Guilty Pleasures one. And some of the ones I just read off will probably be my Guilty Pleasures list. So.
Or maybe a B-movie list, or something people haven't heard of, like raise your hand or leave a comment if you've heard of Hamburger, the motion picture.
Oh, no.
I really like that movie. So
I remember we were looking for that one We were calling like every rental place in the city for that one.
Yeah, and it's not you can't even buy it on DVD now. They do have a very bad video of a video on YouTube that you can watch it. But yeah, that's another movie that would not be made today either. But I guess it wasn't as bad. But yeah, so it was very, very hard for me to pick a top 10 because there were so many wonderful movies in the 80s that I just loved, and every one that I like just evokes something different in me. It's a different emotion, and just and that's what I go for movies. I want movies that maybe I don't love the whole movie, but maybe there's this moment that kind of brings that whole movie together for you. You know?
Understand? I get it.
That's why it's hard to pick my favorite Harry Potter movie. You know, because there's different there's different parts in every Harry Potter that just kind of get me. So, yeah. So we hope you like this video. We'd love to hear your comments on what your favorite 80s movie is. Things like Mark said, things that we missed or we didn't talk about. And you're like, well, what about this movie? This movie's awesome. And maybe we'll do another top 10. Like I said, it's so hard to pick. I mean, there's some great movies, and like Mark said, there's so many we watched on HBO that never even made it to theaters. They premiered on HBO.
They did? Which one?
I think BMX Bandits did.
Oh, BMX Bandits.
Dance Till Dawn wasn't in theaters. I don't think. I could be wrong.
We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up because there's a lot of movies that had. I think when you said it required every actor on ABC in the time to not only be in.
You're talking about TV movies now, right?
Yeah, like more, like Camp Cucamonga, Dance Till Dawn, Crash Course.
Yeah.
Things like that. So, we hope you enjoyed our video, and if you would be so kind to like and subscribe, or even just give us a thumbs up. Say, hey, you know what? I kind of like this video, and I'd like to see more. So, with that being said.
Thanks for watching. Sorry this one took so long, but we get passionate about our 80s movies here.
We do.
So this has been He Said.
She Said.
Thanks for watching. Like you said, comment, like, subscribe. And until next time.
This is heavy.
Stay out of trouble.
Great Scott.